Hello and welcome back to a new episode of our Time podcast. Today I have Louise with me, and Louise has just recently graduated. Congratulations, Louise.
Thank you. I'd have to say it was the number one best thing I've done in my professional career. So more than happy
to hear. Quite a statement to open this little podcast. Expectation is up here now.
Yeah, no, we're going to start off here because that's where Time's put my my confidence and my business strategy. So yeah, let's start up here because that's where Time belongs.
That's wonderful to hear. I want to start a little bit maybe before you joined Time. Pre-Time Live, did you have a mentor or some form of mentoring in your life already, or was this the very first experience for you?
It hasn't been the first experience of having a mentor, and I'll just keep it, I guess, to professional mentors. And it's funny that you asked this question because yesterday I actually shot an email off to the local Chamber of Commerce. My first experience was with them, and it was for young people in business, and it was much like this program. They placed us with another person in the business community who was a part of the chamber, and we went through a mentor program, which was a little bit of book learning and lots of face-to-face appointments with this person. And the lady that I was paired with, she's just a goddess in local business. So she's been helping me for like 5 years now. And I guess with that professional help comes that friendship as well. Like she and her husband were amongst the first people I wanted at my wedding. So, building those deep connections, both professionally and personally, in business and in your community is integral to business success, particularly out in the regional areas, I think.
And if you had that experience before, why then join the Time program? Sounds like you had a pretty solid backup there in regards to getting advice and being able to share potential concerns and guidance. Why Time?
Well, Annabelle works in television media. So, I guess she was just as interested in my industry as I was in her knowledge, particularly with marketing and things like that. My next mentor after Annabelle and before Time, which I should have mentioned because she has made an incredible impact in my life, and she encouraged me to do Time as well, was Margaret Lang, who worked in product at a company I was with before, and that's how we met. But there's just not much that she doesn't know in travel from a product and a networking perspective. But what I gained from her, other than the industry insights that I didn't get from Annabelle, were just the simple things like how to ask questions gently or make statements gently. Like even listening to the way she spoke to me helped frame the way I talk to people. And even now when I hear Margaret coming out of my mouth, I think of her. But yeah, she's an incredible asset to this industry. And she encouraged me to do Time. It was always something that I saw, like in Travel Daily or Carry On or whatever. And I thought, I would so love to do it. But living regionally with a shift working husband and 3 kids, it was always like, I just can't commit to going to Sydney for these face-to-face events like all the time. It was because that's an increased cost of at least $350 for flights or 2 days out if you drive down and back. So it wasn't so much the cost of the program, which I always saw the value in. It was the time and the additional cost to actually go through the program being a regional agent. But
I think in this case then COVID was actually a good thing for that particular part of your life, because that's when we went online also with the mentoring.
Yeah. When I saw it advertised and that it was still running through COVID and that, the program was able to be completed virtually, I was in. Like that day I was in. So it was...
That's great to hear. And when you joined, what was your goal? What expectations did you have? What was the learning pathway for you?
Well, when I filled in the form, and it's funny now to think about because my goals were so much different to what I actually got out of it and what I'm passionate about now. I was really burnt out in travel, and I guess, maybe feeling a bit isolated, but just years I was working myself, all day, every day. And I was just really burnt out. I was like, well, travel is what I'm passionate about. It's what I want to do. But maybe there is another job in this industry that I could do, at this point, just feeling totally burnt out, I guess. But and then I've always said, I just want to be Margaret when I grow up too. So maybe this is my opportunity to, go into more of a product and marketing. I find really exciting. I always have. So it was more of maybe this is the career path for me moving forward, rather than being retail facing all the time. I think that's what I walked into the program wanting to do. Worst time in the world to want to start, a new career path in COVID. Like, there was an unfortunate mass exodus of people in product, not people wanting to put, inexperience in the role, product people on. So what I got out of the program was so very different to what I walked in wanting.
Mm-hmm. So it sounds like you started being at the crossroads, potentially going another pathway, not being sure about it. So then when you completed the form, I would have assumed you probably highlighted, okay, you want direction in regards to your career pathway. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think, okay. And I'm sure that, I don't know how to explain this properly, I suppose, but when you're talking to people in this industry that have, 20 years plus experience on you, they get what you're saying before you even say it, or they get where you're at before you realise it, because they've been there before. So, and I really feel that that's where Colin swooped in. Colin is a phenomenal person in marketing and industry, and he was, on paper, he was the right person to put me with. They matched me perfectly. It was fantastic.
So I remember my very first meeting with the mentor, and there's obviously a lot going through your head before you have the actual first meeting. How was the first meeting for you?
It was fine, actually. It was on the phone. Colin and I were always on phone calls, really. That was our main point of contact. And I've always joked that I want to sort of delve into the family history of both Colin and Margaret, because they were separated at birth. It was just like talking to a male Margaret. It was so easy and comfortable, and it was quite funny. There was even one day during the program that Colin and Margaret sent me the same email about the same thing within hours of each other. So even just little things like that, I knew because of my relationship with Margaret, and how much, and then getting to know Colin and knowing how much he was like Margaret, that it was just perfect. It was meant to be.
Mm-hmm. Obviously, everything within the program, what you discuss with your mentor is confidential. But is there something maybe you can share in regards to what do you actually talk about in a mentor session? And, what are potential outcomes? Is there maybe a special aha moment, or is that like a growing wisdom that gradually steps up for you, and then suddenly you look back and you realize, hey, I've actually gone quite a bit from A to B without noticing as much. How was it for you?
Yeah, for sure. I think it was more of a gradual uptick because the longer it goes on and the more you communicate and contact, you get to know each other better. And I'd go to Colin with I'm thinking about this, or, I've got this sitting on my desk. What do you think I should do? Or, he'd send me books to read, articles to read, and then sort of, it's great. But like by the end of the program, was so comfortable in sharing with each other what was going on, and primarily how Colin would handle things, where that's when I really sort of, like I said in my graduation speech, that's when I really found my backbone again. So I guess being that comfortable with Colin by the end of the program allowed for him to ask me the hard questions and push some of my responses, which can seem uncomfortable, I guess, to people at times, but that's where you grow. And I'll always be grateful to him for that.
Is there any contact since the graduation? Do you kind of continue, or is it like, we get back together maybe in a few months and see what's happening since then? How have you decided to move on with the relationship since graduation?
Colin and I will remain in contact, and I'm so grateful that he's happy to, and I'm fairly confident that, well, he does actually, because there was something else really cool come up on LinkedIn the other day, and he sent it to me. He used to send me some really cool articles on that too. So I think, Time is a fantastic program because it actually brings out the care, I think, as well. Like, and it's not a word I've heard used often enough in this program, is that spending the time does really create the care for fellow agents, regardless of brands, like competing brands, or job titles, or levels or tiers of anybody in that same room when everybody's networking. Like, people are there because they genuinely care, and if you didn't want to be a mentor, I think being a mentor shows you care. You care enough to give up your time to see other people grow. So that's one part of the program that I don't think is highlighted enough.
Agreed. Agreed. You highlighted the networking, and it's obviously one of the big parts that probably most mentees, when they join, don't see as much, because everyone is focused on those mentor sessions. But I think at least equally important is the networking part. So you were remote. Most of your mentoring was happening via phone or potentially Zoom calls. I'm not sure how you exactly did it, but definitely on different places, far away from each other. So was graduation actually your first time you actually got in contact with the rest of the network in person?
Yeah, it sure was. For me, it had to be pushed back a bit, kids with COVID or lockdowns and whatever else was happening at the time. But for me, it meant that I was walking into the rooms there by myself, not knowing anybody else there in advance. So I was actually quite terrified. I'd had a big day. I'd just got off the flight. And what struck me at this particular event is just, everyone was so lovely and happy to chat, and everyone spoke to everyone. I think there are too many events in industry, and perhaps more agent events, where people just, there's not enough or not as much mingling between brands. Whereas in this room, there were all of these different people from, competing cruise lines and tour companies and all of that sort of thing. And that was sort of all out the window. Everyone was there to genuinely chat and connect. And that was one of the first things that struck me about that meeting. And even to compare it to going to Virtuoso last week, another great networking event, but still agents seem to, sort of go off in their own groups. And that was one thing I actually thought about the Time event during the Virtuoso event, thinking, I just wish everyone would just talk to everyone,
Yeah, Yeah, I hear you. So I fully agree. It's a very good observation, actually. I haven't thought about it from that angle. But you're right. Brand doesn't matter. It's just all about the people in the room and what experience do you have to offer and what experience do you need to hear from.
Yeah, people, they genuinely care. Like, that's, as an agent, it was one of the first things that struck me about the people in that room.
How did you manage networking throughout your program, actually? Was there an opportunity to still gain from your mentor to build your local network?
The networking part, so I think I was still at home and I just had a baby, and there was somebody in our group who would offer to put like little Zooms for the group together, but they weren't often things that I could make due to my own workload and personal, things that I had on. But through, I guess, Colin and Margaret, they always happy to, if I was to ask them, like I need a contact or some advice or an angle here, I know that they would be able to help point me in the right direction and connect me with the right people to help. And quite often it wasn't even travel related. It was more about confidence and speaking and things like that, where Colin would recommend, or, why don't you follow this person on LinkedIn? Or watch this video on YouTube, and Margaret's the same. So I think the networking part wasn't so much of it for this virtually completed graduation of mine. But I know that when that email came out after the time graduation with all of the other dates on it for the next couple of meetings, I was just like, yeah, like I really hope that I am around Sydney on those dates, because I would go to those meetings in a heartbeat, and I don't often feel that way about networking. But yeah, I would go on the drop of a hat to another time networking program, and I think setting small goals for yourself as well. Like maybe one day I'll be brilliant enough as a public speaker that maybe one day I'll be able to MC. It's just about having those little small goals as well, moving on from
Yes,
time.
I highly encourage you to do the MC role at some stage. Definitely a great experience. And look, you being on this podcast already shows, you're definitely on your pathway to become a professional public speaker. Who knows?
I don't know. It's just me in this room here at the moment, so it's not so. And you're very good at making people feel relaxed. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Appreciate that. I want to talk a little bit about the workshops. So again, you've been in the virtual environment for the mentoring space. Were you able to join some of the workshops?
Yes, yeah, I did a couple of them, and I'm probably even more so motivated now to do more, to attend more. Obviously, and the virtuals are always really easy for me, but I think it comes back to the parts of my career and my day that Colin was able to really help me establish, well, not just establish, but make law, like blocking out time to do things, like not always working in my business. You've got to work on it. And, so far as that, like 30 minutes out of every day, I now block out of my diary to do some sort of continuing education. So whether it be doing a few, Virtuoso Web 15s, like 2 of those, or I've got some appointments next week with some reps that I met at Virtuoso. I was like, yeah, I need a product update on that. So reached out, made an appointment, but blocking the time off to educate yourself and blocking the time off to do, the online benefits that time give you is, I think, crucial to career progression.
Agree. And I absolutely love the idea to just set 30 minutes or whatever the period is aside every day or every Tuesday, whatever it is, to do something specific to stay on track. That's a very good approach. The couple of workshops you did, what were they about?
More the ones that appealed to me were the ones about personal branding. And that's something that it's a subject that I'm really intrigued about, and it's important to me and in my branding. So yeah, more those. The ones that really I connected with were to do also with confidence and knowing your worth, and service fees, and not specifically that they had webinars on service fees, but it all relates. So more of the personal growth ones, I think, were the ones that I was really keen to sign up to. And it's a great benefit.
I'm not sure if you're aware, but
oh, sorry, you
yes,
go.
definitely. No. You're here to talk, not me. I just asked the questions. No, I just want to say, you're probably aware that even after graduation, first of all, you're always part of the network. I think that's obvious. And whenever you have an opportunity to join, even in Melbourne or Brisbane, you probably travel around Australia a little bit as well. Every local time community is always welcoming to everyone. I've been myself to a couple of events in Melbourne straight after COVID, and it was very funny because I've seen all these people constantly online, like we're catching up, or we do this, or we write on LinkedIn, and it was actually the first time I've seen most of them, but it felt like I've been with them like so often before. And again, it goes back to what you said, having time being people who care about each other, and that kind of established that normal feeling straight away. So after graduation, networking continues, obviously, but the same for the workshops. You can always join as a graduate a workshop if there's a specific topic that you're interested in. But also mentoring continues. So there's definitely a yearly mentor session you have access to.
Yeah.
Where
I
you
didn't
can
realise that
grow.
From Marie. And that's
why I highlighted. A lot of people don't.
No, I read this letter, and it was just like, but there's more, and I just got more and more excited as the letter went on, because I had no idea that I still had access to all this. So, I just think you're nuts if you don't do time, if you have the opportunity to, because it's something that you will continue to grow with, for simply being a part of, but perhaps also being an active part of as well. But yeah, when I read that list of the one-on-one mentoring of people, like availability, I suppose, for the year, I was like, wow, isn't that a power list of the industry? Like, I thought, wow, it
certainly is. And I think you must certainly be nuts if you don't do time should be our new slogan.
It's crazy. Like it's worth every minute, every dollar, and and even just not applying for a scholarship if the dollars is the issue, which we've all just come out of COVID, so for some it is, but there's a scholarship there, so you've got no excuse.
Yeah, you're right. There's actually a lot of scholarships. A lot of our partners who are also part of the network invest money, not necessarily even for their own staff, but even, for just someone in the industry who needs an opportunity to move forward with their development.
Yeah.
There's also payment plans for those who just want to contribute monthly because it's easier that way. So there's actually different ways to manage the financial side, which is, to be honest, not much anyways.
No.
That's definitely all possible. So if you now think about that mentoring period and think about for which career stages do you think it is actually a good idea to consider time?
I think my career stage was perfect because, and I was just having this conversation also with a couple of reps last week. I've got my youngest at home is 3, and she's like cling wrap. So, when you go to these events, say, oh, we'll FOC you 2 nights here, or, why don't you come over and, do this tour, or, whatever. That's fantastic. And I know that's great incentive to a lot of people. But for me at the moment, I can't go anywhere, for a great deal of time, or, take a trip with 2 days notice like I used to be able to. It's wanting people's time. Like that's that's why I've got like a couple of these supplier appointments next week, these one-on-ones. It's like, 2 nights in the Maldives FOC would be great, but what I actually need from you right now is about an hour of your time for an update. Like, is that okay? Like, because that's about all I can commit to at this particular stage in my career as a retail-facing agent. So I think it is a fantastic program for people in the mid stage of their career. Maybe it might be a little bit overwhelming right at the very start, thinking about myself when I started in travel. But then again, I have found myself thinking of some people who have got years on me and are in positions, of great power or authority, where I think, oh, you know what? You would actually get heaps out of this program. But sometimes maybe it's about realizing that it would be good for you too. Like coming to that point where you think, this is what I think I really need to do this. I've been around forever, but like everyone says, like it's not one of those industries that you can ever know everything about at one point in time. Everything's always changing and always fluid. So I think it still would be good for people that are at that in between my stage and almost retirement stage, or and particularly probably people that manage a lot of people as well. I don't manage anybody but myself, so I think people who have people working for them, I think it would be a phenomenal program to be matched with someone with that experience.
Well, that sounds perfect to me. In case you want to get rid of your 2 FOC nights for the Maldives, feel free to send me an email and sign me up. I'm always happy to help.
It was such a bizarre thought to have in the back of my head as these people are talking to you. Like, and you're thinking, 10 years ago, I would have booked my ticket tomorrow. They were the opportunities in travel that you lived for and you worked so hard for. But at this stage in my career, I'm fairly grounded at the moment. Or if I do travel, it's family travel. So, and I'm not bummed about it because I know that, my time's coming again. It's just, it's a career, it's a cycle as being a travel agent in your career. It's just, that's just the part of the cycle that I'm at the moment. So, busily trying to connect with reps again now that everybody's on the move and excited, just pinpointing those places where I feel I need to have a brush up on. And doing that one-on-one regionally is fantastic.
Yep. Well, Louise, thank you so much for your time. Come to the end of the interview, unfortunately, already. I hope I'll see you in person at one of the events very soon. And if not, I'm sure we stalk each other on LinkedIn. Continue.
Well, thank you for calling.
I will put your personal profile link in the description box. So if someone wants to reach out to you or has some FOC nights want to offer,
I'll get back to that stage. But for now, I just, people's time is what is most important to me. Boom ching.
And to me, and I appreciate you for being on a public holiday even here with me. Thank you so much.
No, thanks for asking me. It was a privilege to be asked, but I just really hope that it encourages people who were, flatlining like I was pre-time, just to just jump in feet first, and you've got nothing to lose. You won't know how much you can grow unless you try.
Thank you.